In this section, we will be covering the mathematical functions related to access. And there are many mathematical functions. So if you want to see that, you can go for in the formula functions. In the formula, you will see the maths and trigonometry. So maths and trigonometry, both functions are combined together in case of action. So we have got absolute, that's a number function. But when we are looking forward for a cos, this is basically a trigonometric function. So basically it's a combination of a number of functions that is related to maths, and then we are related to your trigonometric function. So some of the functions that we have been using since long. So we have got the absolute function, ceiling function, combine, countif, even, factorial, floor, GCD, integer, LCM, minverse, mmult, mult, mod, mround, odd, pi, power, product, quotient, rand between, Roman, round, sign, subtotal, sum if, sum product, truncate, average, count A, count F, forecast, growth, large, max, mean, and so on. So we have got n numbers of different functions that is available with our functions related to your number. Okay, but we will be not using all these functions because all these functions is not useful for everything. Okay, it depends upon the kind of requirement that you have been using. Okay, so on the basis of that, it is better to decide which function will be required and which will not be required. Okay, on average, almost all people will be using the absolute function. Okay. They will be using the average function. Let me see where we have the average function. Okay, we have got the average here. Okay. Then we will be using the ceiling function. Then count functions, functions related to count a, count blank, count if, count ifs. Okay, then we require the functions related to sum ifs, then sum product, then we use the forecast, then we use the function of minimum and maximum, then we use the rank, we find the trends, we do the rounding of the functions. Okay, in rounding there is simple round function, and then we have m round function. Okay, let's give you the multiple of the round functions. Then we have the trend to see what is the movement of that trend, and then we have the forecast. So all these functions are basically in the related to mathematical function and are used on a regular basis. Okay. So let's start with the first functions. That is your absolute function. Absolute function is quite a similar, easy function. Absolute function does what is that it removes the negative of the number. Okay, so for example, if we have minus 25. Okay, now you see that it's a negative function. Okay, so in the axis, if you see, it will be on the left hand side in the axis. Okay, so it's negative. Okay, but if we write 25, it's only positive. Now what absolute functions does is basically convert the negative into positive and keep the positive as positive. Okay, so it's irrespective of the sign, negativity or the positivity, it will give us the absolute value of the value of the cell that is there. Okay, so if you use the absolute function. Okay, so we are getting 25. That is the benefit of the absolute function. Now next function is your average function. Average is basically calculating the mean of anything. Okay, so we have got say temperature of different days from Monday to Sunday. Okay, and then we have the average of the rain. Okay. The function is quite similar to calculate the mean, that is average. Okay, and then just select the range that you are looking forward for. Will give you the average of the function. Scroll down, so it will give you the for the next value. Okay. So that is how we get the average. It's a very easy function and it will be requiring for many other functions. Okay. So what happens in case of Excel is many a times we use a combination of different functions. So what is happening is, say for example, we can use the if function. Say for if say we put it as if average of this is greater than or equal to say 30, then say we have got hot weather or else it's okay. So we got that. Okay. Okay, because what is happening, the temperature average of the temperature is should be greater than or equal to 30, then it will be hot or else it is okay. But we are finding that average is 28.667, that is why it is the average is less than 30, and that is why it is saying as okay. Next function is your ceiling function. Now ceiling function is basically used to round to the next number or whatever we want to give a reference. Okay. Say for example, we have got a small table, so we have got bricks. That unit needs to move is 1000. Truck capacity is 300. So truck needed is 3.3. Okay. But we know that 3.33 truck is not possible. So it can be either 3 or it can be 4. Okay. So similarly, we have the woods, that is truck needed is 8.33. Now, the uses of the ceiling function is if we use the ceiling. Okay. In case of Excel 2016 onwards, it is ceiling.math. Okay. In earlier version, it is just a ceiling function. Okay. So depending upon which Excel you are using, the function will be changing. Okay. So we have got uh, say for example function. So let's put that d2 by truck capacity. Okay. And then it's asking for the significance. Okay, so we will be looking for one significance, and then let's close it. Okay, so we have got 4. So this is a function that will put it in the average function. Now similar to this ceiling function is your round function. Now round function says that you have got number, that is this, divided by the function, and then you are asking for how many digits to be round up. Okay. So if we put 0, okay, what it is doing, it is putting it on a smaller version of that. Okay, so smaller number, less than the total. Okay, round, there is one function called round up. Okay. Now round up, what the round up is doing is that it is upgrading to the next higher level, the next possible number. Okay. So the output of ceiling as well as the output of round up will be more or less similar. Okay. In case of round 2, basically what is happening in ceiling is that it is converting into the number next higher reference cells. Okay, the sum is very similar to the round function. In case of round function, what is doing is that when we put the 0, means that we do not want any decimal places. Okay. Then if we want to put as 1, we want to add 1 decimal places, and if 2, we got for 2 decimal places, and so on. Okay. Similarly is the roundup. Roundup is basically moving it to the next higher level. Okay. So if we put as roundup and we put it as 1, okay, we will be getting as 3.34. Now 3.34 is basically where 3.33 is there. Okay, that the output. Now this is moving to the next level, higher, next higher number. Okay, that is 3.34. That is the function related to round up and round. In case of m round, okay, m round is basically it talks about the multiple of the number. Say for example, if we calculate this divided by this and we want the multiple of say 10 or say multiple of 2, here we will get 4 as output, but when we go down, that number 9 will be converted to number 8. Okay. Why it is happening? Because it will always calculate on the number multiple of 2. Okay. Please always remember that we are using the m round function. Okay. It will go to one number less than that is displayed. Okay. So if you want to put here as 3, okay, it will be calculating the multiple of 3. It is very useful functions when we are using in case of billing or any other purpose. We are getting a multiple of 10 or multiple of 5 and so on. So let's look at the next function, that is our count function. Count function is quite very easy or simple functions. Count functions basically counts the number of number available. Okay, just whatever there is any data, any division that any thing that is there in the different cell, it will count the number of cell that has been occupied by any of the items. But always remember that the item need to be in the form of a number or date. Okay, then only it will be calculating. It will calculate the text function subjected to if it is not mentioned there. Okay, so if it is into number or text, it will be converted. So the syntax of count is very simple. It is count, then we have to give the number of values that is there in the cells, and then hit enter. Okay. So what is happening here, that we are getting the count of 3 up to this level, up to row number 9. Okay, but later on if we are moving, we are getting 2 2 2. Okay, why it is happening, we have got blank, we have got text here, and then we have got some function here, or there can be an error here. Okay. Now what is happening here, that if you select this 3 cells, that the count of which is showing, and when we are using the function as 2, the count here will be showing as 3 number of selected cells. Okay. Now this is there is a difference between number of selected cells and the references. Okay. So if we look at the function of count, sorry. So it says count the number of cells in the range that contains number. Okay. You see, count the number of cells in the range that contains numbers. But when we are talking about the count here, it says that number of selected cells that contains data. There is two difference. It is the count function is a numerical function or the mathematical function that is counting the number of cells that is having a number. Okay. While this part that is showing as the count is calculating the number of cells, selected cells that are containing the data. So don't get confused between this count, okay, and the count function. So using the other functions, we have, say for example, we have got, say, countif function. Okay. Now the countif function, we have got different items at different dates and having the different counts. Count. So what we are trying to identify, that we want to know the number of brake shoes that have been bought. Okay. So we will be using the countif function. Now countif function is syntax for countifs. Countif function says about the range. Okay, so you need to provide that a range where it will be doing the calculation. So this is the range. Okay, and then you have to provide the criteria. Now the criteria in our case is looking for breaks. Okay, so there are two functions. Okay. Now there is another functions related to extension of countif, that is countifs. Okay. Now what happens in case of countifs is that it takes about uses the multiple criteria. Okay. So for example, we want to know how many brakes has been sold or brought, which is say less than or equal to, say for example, let's take or is equal to 100. Okay. So we do not have any brakes that is 100. So if we look brakes, it's 80 here, brakes 80. So we have got two brakes here which has cost of 88. Okay. Let's change the figure and see whether we are working on right or not. Okay. So we have got one here. Okay, because one brake is costing 100 rupees. So that is we have got count, count if, and count ifs. Okay. In ifs we have got multiple range, multiple criteria. Okay. In count if we have got single range, single criteria. In case of count, we just count the number of the items that is available. Okay. Now the other option for the count related to count is your count A. Count A is contains all the number of cells that is not empty. Okay, so if we select from here to here, we will be finding that its output is 3 because it has got one that is not calculating this number, and this number, but not this one because this is an empty. Okay. Other functions related to count is your count blank. Count blank basically counts the number of cells in the selected range, it is blank. Okay. So for example, in this he will be getting an output of 1. Okay. Because we have got one cell that is blank. It's when the data are very small, you can see that you can count it on number, but it happens when with the data are very large. Okay, we use the functions for quick identification if there is any error or not. Okay. So for example, you have downloaded something from your ERP or anything related from Excel. Okay, and then we have find that there is a gap there, and because of that gap, the VLOOKUP function or any other function is not working. In that case, yeah, we can use the count blank function to identify if it is blank. Okay. Yeah, the one of the very good functions related to this is blank. Okay, it's blank is basically a logical function. Okay, so if you want to see whether it is blank or not, it is saying as true. But the other function that we are looking forward for is false. So we can filter out all the truths and get the using the remove mm, duplicates. We can remove this all the true functions, or using the filter we can remove it from the cells itself. There's one function called the floor function. Floor function is basically a combination of your functions related to mround, ceiling. Okay, so all these functions are more or less used on the same function, same part. Okay, so if we use the floor function, okay, we have got floor mass and floor depending upon which Excel you are using. Okay, so it says that it will round a number down to the nearest integer or the nearest multiple of significance. Okay, so what we are doing in case of m round is basically we are getting the multiple and we are giving the significance. So m round function can be also used the function in the floor, or we can use as the number of significance to the nearest integer. Okay. So basically, it's some extended form, or we can say functions very much related to m round function. Okay. So because of the some functions that is quite similar to each other, the popularity of some functions are not being used. Okay. So if you use the some function floor function, then we have this, then we give the significance, we get the next lower integer. Okay, that is the function of your floor. Okay. Now we have got the max and the min function. Max and the min functions in the entire array or entire range that we have, we will identify the minimum and the maximum number that is available with that. The function for max is max. Okay. And then we give the range, and then we get the function, and then we have the maxA function, and then we have the dmax function or the database related to max function, and then we have got the max ifs. Okay, max ifs function is basically the similarly what we have given, that we have to give the value of the max range. Okay, then we have to give the criteria. Okay, then criteria says, say for example, we have 100 and so on. So it's basically incomplete data. Okay. More functions are more values are required to check the maxfix functions. Maxfix functions is basically having two or more criteria that will be taking up the maximum. Okay, so where we have got maximum out of this. Okay, say for example, if we have another set of value, say 10, 15, 17. Let's convert it into a rupee function. Here's the max. So we have the max range, then we have the criteria range, and then we have to give the criteria that it should be 10. So we have the maximum of 120. Here the maximum was 800, but here the maximum is 120. Why the maximum is 120? Because okay, it should be equal to 10. Okay, we can put the number as equal to, greater than, or whatever. So we have just put it as 10. So the 10 is here, the value 10 is here. So in this criteria range, it it is looking forward for the value of 10. Wherever the value of 10, it will calculate the maximum related to that. Okay. So that is the function of max if. Okay. Similarly, there is a minimum. Okay. So when we use the minimum functions, we have the minimum a, minimum ifs. Okay. Similarly, that we have used for the max function. mm mmult is basically a function, array function. Okay, now array function is basically when we use the different array check whether the value is there or not. Okay. So for example, if we want to see, we have got a data that we have got three sizes of box, that is giant, standard and economy, and number of chocolates, that is white, milk chocolate, dark chocolate and white chocolate in the boxes. Okay. So in case of giant, we have got 30 milk chocolate. In case of dark, and so. Okay. Now customer has ordered say 300 giant boxes, 400 standard boxes, and 500 economy boxes. So, what is the number of quantity that need to be produced? Okay, for example, how many milk chocolate will be required? How many dark white chocolate will be required? For this, we have the function for multiple. This basically returns the matrix product of two arrays. Okay. So we have the array 1. Okay. That is what we are looking forward for this array, multiple into this array. Okay. So we get the 3 output here. Okay. So 3700 we need to manufacture for milk, or for dark chocolate we need to 25,500. For chocolate we need 25,500. Okay. Now other important thing is that when you are using the mmult function as an array functions, you can also use using the array, convert it into array. Okay. It's just to convert it into array, it's basically control shift and then enter. Okay. Now what is happening in case of control shift error, you see this curly bracket here. Okay, so this has become now an array function. So if we freeze this using F4 function, this is using saying that this is going for the spell. Okay, so there is some error with the spell. Okay, so we are getting 3700 here. It's not spilling over. It is not spilling over. There is some problem with the access file itself, because it should ideally spill over the values to the next level. I think there is some update that is required. Okay, so this is basically mmult function. Now next important function is your rank function. Rank function is basically to check the position. Okay, so we have got different values. Okay, and we all we need is to know the rank of this. Okay, at what rank it is. So in rank, what we need is to give the high the function of rank is rank. Then we have the different numbers, okay, for which we want to check for this number, and then we have to select the entire range. So this is how the rank function is being used. So it basically gives us the rank of that value. If we freeze the cell and just move on, okay, we'll get the rank of all this. Okay. So we have got the highest value as 25, so rank is 1. Okay. So it can be a descending or ascending. So the next function is basically to check the trend. Okay. Trend is basically using the linear regression, linear model. Okay, basically the equation of the straight line. So the trend we have got, so we have got known y's and known x. So basically it's working on the linear regression model. So we have this as outputs known y's, and then we have this months. Okay. And then it is asking for new axis. So we have got new axis for the next month. Okay. And constant we can, as if now, take as equal to 1 or 2 as calculated normally. So let's calculate it normally. Similar to the trend function is your forecast function, that is also using the linear model. Okay. In case of trend functions, what we can do is to divide the all axes. Okay. In case of forecast functions, the function is similar. So we have got the forecast. Okay. Then we have the x, known y's and known x's. Okay. So what we are looking forward for is that what will be the forecast for the 12th month. Okay. Then we have got the known y's, and then we have got the known x's. Okay. So the forecast for the 12th month on the basis of that previous data is that it will be 7,997 rupees 14 paise. So that is how we use the forecast function and the your trend function. Now we have been using the sum function a lot. Okay. Now the combination of the sum function or the extension of the sum functions is your sum ifs. Okay. So we have got sum ifs, sum product. Okay. So these are some of the functions that are related to sum. Okay. Sum we have been using. Sum if is basically looking forward for condition and then adding the sum if. Okay, it is very similar to COUNTIF function, where in the COUNTIF it's basically counting the number of cells. In SUMIF it will be giving us the sum of all the summation of all the values. In case of SUMIFs, we have got different range. So that is how we go about the different functions related to mathematical functions. There are n numbers of different mathematical functions. Okay. So in the comment you can write if for about any functions that you are looking forward for, that is that might be useful for you. On an average, these are the functions that is required for most of the options related to your mathematical functions.